Hi, this is Dr. Morecook with the first of a series of videos while we're dealing with this health crisis here in the dear old US of A. In this video I'm going to talk about the 3 stages of memory and also about the subtypes of long-term memory. I encourage you to be taking a look at your PowerPoints from time to time, and one of the very early slides that you see in there is going to be the one that you see next on your screen. So here we go. First, let's look at the slide itself and the boxes. The colored boxes read from left to right: sensory memory, short-term memory, long-term memory. In daily life, we're used to the idea that we have only one memory, but psychologists know this is not true. We actually have many different types of memory, and we shift information from one memory type to another automatically. Just like with an automobile, most people who have a car with an automatic transmission, and you shift from first to second to third gear automatically. But there are different gears. There are also different memory types. Let's go back to the first one, sensory memory. Now, for the record, if you look around the room, you will very briefly insert every item in that room into your memory. However, you will forget almost all of it within about a half of a second, unless you pay attention to it. See the word attention and with a yellow background and big black letters? Yes, the things that you pay attention to, you will move from sensory memory to your short-term memory, which is also sometimes called working memory. What happens to the things that you don't pay attention to? They're very quickly forgotten. And if you glance around a room, you won't even know what had been there, except for the things that you paid attention to. Now, once you've got something into short-term memory, you can hold it there for about 30 seconds, maybe a little bit longer, quite a bit longer if you rehearse it. Okay. I'm certain you've had the experience of meeting somebody new. You chat with them, you exchange names, you chat for another 30 seconds, and then you have forgotten their name. It happens to all of us. And you can see what's happened if you take a look at that green box labeled short-term memory. If you did not rehearse that name in some way, it becomes lost. In other words, forgotten. Fortunately, though, we can learn things and remember them for more than 30 seconds, but to do so, we must encode them. Take a look at the blue box with the black lettering, the word encoding in it. And if you encode information, you can move it into long-term memory. By the way, look above the word encoding and you will see that there are 2 encoding types. One type of encoding is called rote or maintenance rehearsal. That's simply where you say something over and over to yourself again, like a telephone number or a name. Or second, you may attempt to elaborate on that new piece of information, connected to something that you already know. I had a student in class a number of years ago, and her last name was Alberto. Many names are difficult for me to remember, but I've never forgotten hers, because my brother's last name is Albert, my father's first name is Albert, and both of my grandfathers' first name were Albert. I also have a cousin named Albert. I wonder why I could remember the name Alberto. It was because I associated it with something which I already knew. Now, once you've got something in long-term memory, you can probably hold it for a long, long time. Take a look at that figure again, and as well as arrows going from left to right, like from sensory memory via attention to short-term memory, or encoding to move things from short to long-term memory, there is also an arrow going from long-term memory back to short-term memory. Yeah, and that's called retrieval. And just because you've got something in long-term memory does not mean you can necessarily bring it back into short-term memory. By the way, that's the same thing as consciousness. Almost certainly you've had the experience of going in to take a test, and on the test there was some question that required a fill-in-the-blank answer, such as, what was the name of the 16th American president? And you're going, oh my gosh, I forgot. Then you run out of time, you turn in your paper, and you walk out of class, and then you remember it was Abraham Lincoln. And you want to go back then and, write that in on your test, but your teacher won't let you. Yes. Well, it was in your long-term memory. You just couldn't retrieve it and bring it back into consciousness within the short time period that was allowed. Now, we have different subtypes of long-term memory, and in just a moment I'm going to change the slide and we're going to see what comes next. Okay, here's our new slide. If you take a look at the top, you can see that information is moving from short-term memory to long-term memory. But if you follow the line farther to the right, you see the word subtypes are. And we see that there are a number of subtypes of long-term memory. They split into two types, declarative and non-declarative long-term memories. I also give you the alternate names. Explicit is an alternate name for declarative, and implicit is an alternate name for non-declarative. Let's talk about what these terms mean. Declarative. You think about the word sentence. Sentences or statements are declarations that people can make. And there are some memories that we can make statements about. We can state them out loud, or if you prefer, we can state them silently to ourselves. There are also, if you look to the right, some memories which are non-declarative. They are implied. These are memories that we have, but about which we cannot make a statement. Now that may sound really strange. I know it boggled my mind a bit when I first heard about it, but we're going to talk about this. But first let's take a look at the declarative memories. And these are, once again, the ones that we can explicitly make sentences or statements about. These break into episodic and semantic memories. Episodic memories refers to episodes from our own life, things that have happened to us. Do you remember where you were and what you did for your last birthday? That was an episode in your life. Do you remember what you had for breakfast this morning, if any? That's an episode from your own life. You can make a statement about that if your memory is good. If you went to see a psychologist because somebody thought that your memory might be bad, I might have you sit in the room with your mom or dad, ask you what you had for breakfast, and then ask them if that was correct. And sometimes people get it wrong. Instead, they'll substitute their favorite foods instead of what they really remember. That's because their memory is bad. Now, semantic memories, and by the way, the word semantics simply means words. These are things that you have learned that are shared knowledge in our culture, but which you have not experienced personally. In other words, they're not episodes from your own life. You can almost certainly tell me the name of the first American president if you were raised in the United States. It was George Washington. Did you ever have lunch with him? Have you ever met him? No, but we can check and see if the memory for that is in your memory bank by asking you the question. Now, let's go over and take a look at non-declarative memories, implicit memories. And you can see that they break into two types, motor skills and classical conditioning. Now, classical conditioning we dealt with in chapter number 4. And perhaps when you see certain automobiles, you say out loud, "Wow, that's one hot car." But you don't remember having seen the advertisements years ago when a cute young lady or handsome gentleman was leaning on the hood of the car and you thought to yourself that was hot. Yet, even so, the memory is there because now you call those cars hot. Motor skills, these are behaviors that we can perform successfully. Almost certainly you can catch a ball, but not many people have a memory of when they first learned how to catch a ball. Well then, how do I know you remember how to catch a ball? Well, you can perform the procedure of catching the ball. By the way, an alternate name for motor skills is procedural memory, because you can perform the procedure. Many people do not actually remember learning how to ride a bike. Well, if you can't remember learning how to ride a bike, how do I know that you can ride a bike? Put you on a bike, of course. So, we've got a number of different subtypes of memory within long-term memory. And you and I in daily life, we shift our memories among these various types automatically, just like a car shifts in its gears automatically from time to time. Once again, we shift information from one memory type to another automatically, much like a car shifts its gears. However, now that you know about this information, you may start to notice when you actually do the process of shifting things from one stage to another. That's all for this video. I'll see you again soon.